Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something that often feels really complex, maybe even a bit daunting. We're looking at the patient admission and registration process, specifically at a major place, Tata Memorial Hospital TMH in Mumbai.
That's right. Can seem like a maze.
Exactly. And we've got a great source here, a detailed guide straight from TMH itself. So our mission really is to unpack all of this for you, pull out the key steps, give you a clear roadmap. We want you to feel informed, prepared, whether it's for you, someone you know, or maybe you're just curious how these big systems work. Kind of a shortcut to getting clued in without getting overwhelmed.
Absolutely. And understanding these processes beforehand, it can make a huge difference. Seriously, cuts down on stress. It just makes the whole patient experience, well, better. What's quite striking here is how clearly TMH has actually laid things out. We're going to highlight those specific pathways for you, show you how to navigate it smoothly.
Okay, great. So let's jump right in. The very beginning of seeking treatment. What's that first step for a new patient at TMH, say for diagnosis or a second opinion, or maybe starting therapy?
Right. So the absolute foundation for anyone new is patient registration. Simple as that. And TMH conveniently offers two main ways to do this. You can register online, which is often easier, or you can go the traditional route offline, walk-in.
Okay, options right off the bat. That's good. Let's maybe tackle the offline, the walk-in registration first. What does that actually involve? What does someone need to know if they're just showing up?
Okay, the walk-in. If you choose this, you need to head straight to the registration counters. They're in the Golden Jubilee block on the TMH Apparel campus. Now, a really crucial tip from the guide, and honestly, you can't stress this enough, get there early. Like ideally between 8:00 a.m. and 11:00 a.m., especially on weekdays. It just makes a massive difference because the volume of patients is, well, it's high.
Makes sense. And documents, what do you absolutely need to have with you? Because being prepared sounds like, step zero here.
Oh, totally. Step zero. I like that. You absolutely need a valid photo ID. Think Aadhaar card, voter ID, something like that. Plus, any recent medical reports you have. Prescriptions too. Previous ones. Bring them. If another doctor referred you, bring that referral letter. It can sometimes speed things up a bit. And passport-sized photos. Don't forget those. Once you're actually there, you fill out a physical form, hand it in, and then you get assigned this unique hospital number. It's called a CRNO.
Right, the CRNO. That's more than just a number, isn't it? Sounds like it becomes your main ID within the whole TMH system.
It really is. That CRNO is like your anchor. It's used for everything that follows, booking future appointments, checking test results, even applying for financial help. It's key. After you get the CRNO, they'll give you an OPD card, outpatient department card. And that card clearly states the specialty or the department you need to see. So maybe a specific oncology unit like breast cancer or head and neck. Then they'll give you the date for your first consultation or screening. It's worth noting, TMH often has to prioritize, urgent cases or patients with formal referrals. So that can affect your appointment timing.
Okay, that covers the walk-in pretty well. What about the online option? For someone maybe not living right in Mumbai or who just wants to streamline things before they even leave home, how does that work? What are the advantages?
Yeah, the online registration is definitely designed for efficiency. Especially helpful if you're coming from out of town or, like you said, just want to cut down on waiting time at the hospital itself. You go to the official TMH website, that's tmc.gov.in, and look for their patient registration portal.
And what kinds of things can you register for online? Is it everything or just specific services?
It's actually quite broad. You can use the portal for several things. General new case registration, which is probably the most common. Also for getting a second opinion, signing up for preventive oncology screening, or even if you just need a referral for investigations, like tests. You fill out an online form, personal details, medical history, the usual stuff. But the real efficiency boost, uploading your documents right then and there, your medical reports, ID proof, photo, getting those in ahead of time, that pre-verification, that's what really smooths things out for when you arrive in person.
Ah, I see. So that pre-work potentially saves a lot of time and hassle on the day. Okay, so you submit all that online info. What happens next?
TMH reviews it, and then they'll get back to you, usually by email or SMS. They'll give you your patient ID, that CRNO again, plus the scheduled date and time for your first appointment. And maybe some specific instructions like, fast before this blood test or something similar. The big win here is that these pre-scheduled online appointments, they genuinely cut down the waiting time significantly once you get to the hospital. What could be hours might turn into a much quicker check-in.
That definitely sounds like the shortcut we were talking about. Okay, so let's shift gears a bit. Say a patient has had that initial consultation and the doctor decides, okay, you need to be admitted for more intensive treatment, maybe surgery, chemo. What does that admission process look like?
Right, so now we're moving to the inpatient admission process. This usually happens when you need something like surgery, chemotherapy cycles, maybe a bone marrow transplant, or even setting up radiation therapy, or for certain complex diagnostics that need you to stay in the hospital for observation.
Got it. So the doctor recommends admission. What are the actual steps the patient needs to take then to get admitted?
The doctor gives you what's called an admission slip, or maybe a formal recommendation letter. You take that, and your next stop is the admission desk. It's located pretty conveniently, ground floor of the TMH admission office building, right near the main OPD area. You go there, submit that admission slip along with your original ID documents again, and crucially, your CRNO card. Always have that CRNO card.
Okay, makes sense. Document submitted. How does the hospital then decide on a bed? What factors come into play for bed allotment?
Yeah, bed allotment depends on a few key things. Firstly, the medical urgency, how quickly do you need that bed? Secondly, plane availability. Are there beds free in the general ward, semi-private, or private rooms? And third, and this is really important, your financial category. We definitely need to talk about this because it shapes a lot of what happens next. Once they assess all that, they'll let you know the specific date and time you should come in for admission.
Okay, you brought up financial categories. This is often a point of confusion or stress for patients, I imagine. Can you walk us through the different payment options at TMH and what kind of proof or documents are needed for each one?
Absolutely. It's crucial to understand this part. There are basically four main categories at TMH. First up is the general category. This is for patients who need subsidized care or sometimes even completely free treatment. If you're applying for this, you must provide proof, usually an income certificate issued by a relevant authority or perhaps a below poverty line BPL card. These documents are absolutely essential to access this type of aid.
Right, so documentation is key for the general category. What's next?
Second is the private category. This is pretty straightforward. You pay the full cost of your treatment yourself. For this category, you generally don't need to provide any specific financial proof documents because it's, well, self-funded.
Okay, two down. What are the other two?
The third category is corporate or insurance. This is if your treatment costs are being covered by your employer or maybe a government health scheme like CGHS, ECHS, or Ayushman Bharat. For this, you'll need an authorization letter from the company or the insurer, plus all the necessary documents related to that specific scheme. And finally, the fourth is the sponsorship category. This is for patients who are getting financial help from, say, a non-governmental organization, an NGO, or maybe certain other government-sponsored programs. Here, you typically need an official letter from the NGO confirming the sponsorship, or sometimes an assessment done by one of TMH's own social workers. So you can see why getting these financial proofs sorted out early and having the right ones for the category you fall into is just vital if you're not paying fully out of pocket.
That really clarifies the financial side. It underlines that preparing your financial documents is just as critical as having your medical reports ready. Okay, so you've navigated all that, the bed is assigned, it's admission day. What should a patient actually bring with them to the hospital?
Good question. On the day you're admitted, definitely have your CRNO card again, your original ID proofs, all your relevant test reports and prescriptions from earlier consultations. And then, your personal basics, clothes, toiletries, things you'll need for your stay. You'll then be guided to your assigned ward or maybe the ICU, depending on your situation, and formally admitted.
And thinking beyond the admission, what about follow-up appointments after someone is discharged? How does TMH manage those?
Follow-ups are usually scheduled right around the time you're discharged, or sometimes after a subsequent OPD visit if needed. The key thing, again, sorry to sound like a broken record, but it's important. Keep that CRNO card safe and handy for all future visits. It's always your main ID there. You can often manage these follow-up appointments through the TMH online portal too, or just by calling their help desk. They make it fairly accessible.
And it sounds like if you run into trouble or just have questions anywhere along this path, there's help available.
Yes, definitely. TMH has a dedicated patient help desk located right near the entrance. They're there to help with, general registration questions, give guidance on finding financial assistance, even just helping you find your way around the hospital. And if you need help remotely, you can always call their main number. It's 022-241-77000, or check out their website, tmc.gov.in. It's actually quite comprehensive.
Wow, okay, that was quite the deep dive. We've really traced the whole journey, haven't we? From figuring out those initial registration options online versus offline, all the way through to the inpatient admission steps, including those really vital payment categories. The goal here was to take what looks like a really intimidating bureaucratic process and just, well, map it out into clear, manageable steps for you.
Exactly. We've laid out the roadmap for getting care at TMH, piece by piece. And reflecting on all this detail, it does bring up an interesting thought, doesn't it? In any really complex system like a huge hospital, how much difference do you think it actually makes when a patient is proactive? When they really understand the process beforehand and meticulously prepare all their documents?
Yeah.
How much impact does that preparedness have on, say, the speed and efficiency of getting care? And what are the benefits, not just for the individual patient, but maybe for the system as a whole?
That's definitely something to think about, the power of preparedness in these big systems. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We really hope you feel more informed and maybe a little less overwhelmed now. Until next time, stay curious.